Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from DeltaCX.com. We're a full service CX and UX agency. Check us out. And today is episode 118, The Coming CX UX Correction and Shift. I'm going to be reading to you my new Medium article, which is a follow up to an earlier Medium article, which I read on the show as episode 111. So if you haven't seen that Medium article yet, my 2-year prediction, please look up episode 111 and enjoy that one first. So I'm really excited to get the people live in the YouTube chat and the LinkedIn chat to give me your feedback, thoughts, opinions, disagreements as I go through the article. I'm happy to hear what everybody has to say. So I've got it open in a private browser window. And I think if I press this button, it's claiming I have to put in my password. Yes, even on my own home network. I must save myself from myself. All right, you should now see me and the chat room, which is still empty, and my screen. Yes, everybody? Okay, just checking. Okay, great. So again, this is available on Medium. It shouldn't be behind the paywall, so you should have no trouble accessing it. I have very few articles I've put behind the paywall. They do let you choose. So if someone's put something behind the paywall, they chose that. So this is called the Coming CX and UX Correction and Shift. Feel free to comment as I go along and I'll respond to them. So expanding from my previous article on my 2-year prediction for how UX has already started splitting and will continue to split, the great correction looks like this. 1. There are really 2 types or buckets of jobs in our CX, UX, UI, XD, whatever you're calling it world. Job A is typically an order taker and production designer to just make wireframes. Job A might believe that defining the problem or understanding customers is a day of sticky notes in a design thinking workshop or design sprint. Job A is solution focused. Don't focus on the problem too much. We need those solutions. Engineering will get them to the public, and then marketing can tell us if people like them. Job B is a problem finder and problem solver to look at solid qualitative research, or do the research first, and go from there. Job B wants to do 200 hours or more of observational and interview research and analysis, or work from it to be research informed. R and D, R before D, business and customer intelligence from qualitative research before we shoot for solutions. You have to deeply understand people, problems, systems, environments, and more before you can hope to come up with the right or best solutions. That will split the production designers, Job A, from the people who I like to call the children of Don Norman, Job B. We need both of these jobs and the workers who tend to prefer each. There are places for both of these people in all companies. So quick comment here. I had someone say to me, oh no, I can't show this article at my job. You make Job A people sound terrible. I don't want to make Job A people sound terrible, but this is a pretty classic UX, UI, product designer job. Solution focused, workshops, just make wireframes. I'm not insulting those people. That's a reality. And for some jobs, that's what people want. That's what they need. And so it's a job, but it's very different from Job B. We need both of these people. But I am saying, too, the personalities required for Job A and Job B are different. Job A typically needs a highly talented and creative person who's happy to take expert care of what's being asked of them. They feel rewarded when they can complete concrete work expected of them. Job A workers are less likely to challenge teammates' assumptions or ideas. That type of challenging isn't usually part of Job A. Job A workers might hear things at their workplace like, here's a list of requirements. Please make the best screens that match them. Please wireframe the product manager's idea. Here's the winning idea from a design sprint, Lean UX, or some other design by committee adventure. Please clean it up and improve it. Please get us some screens. Even though we don't have good or any research and might not do any usability testing. Surveys or NPS told us this, so please come up with some fixes. Research and/or testing not required. Conversions are down, so please make a better landing page. Research and/or testing not required. We know our customers. We know their problems. Let's just find fast solutions so engineering can get them out. Then we'll learn if they were the right solutions. Job B typically needs highly talented and creative people who don't want to take orders or just make a thing. These personalities are typically change agents, whistleblowers, advocates, and standing up against the status quo. Critical thinking and challenging assumptions are required. Teammates and managers might tell them, "We should create strategies and initiatives based on the business intelligence that deep customer research can provide. Before we decide on features, we need to better understand customers and the market to decide what we should build or shouldn't build. We shouldn't wireframe or prototype anything without being informed by well-executed and well-analyzed observational and/or interview research. Products and features that don't match customers, well, are risky and wasteful for our business. Let's make sure we are thoroughly researching, architecting, and testing before engineering spends weeks or months pushing it out. Customers don't want minimally viable anything. How do we prioritize the most important features or changes based on real user tasks, workarounds, knowledge, and obstacles?" You get the picture. This is why Job A is unlikely to be a starting point or gateway drug into Job B. Very often, different personalities gravitate to each job. Therefore, there's nothing wrong with being a senior Job A or lead Job A who never wants to do Job B and just wants to keep rising in the ranks of Job A. Both jobs require skill and talent, but they are somewhat different skills and talents. There's nothing wrong with a Job B personality who never wants to do Job A, not even as an entry-level job. Please see my February 2020 Medium article, "No, we don't want to make UX juniors be production designers," which was a response to some typically bad advice from Jared Spool. He seems to think that Job A is a great place for Job B people to start, and I burn that to the ground in detail. Quick side note, an earlier version of the Job A, Job B concept is in my 2019 Delta CX book. I called Job A order takers, and I called Job B interface scientists. 3. The requirements for each job are fairly different. A and B candidates are assessed differently. Job A wants X years of Figma or Sketch. You must know how to wireframe. Visual design portfolio required. You'll be assessed by how pretty screens are. You might not be asked about process since it's all really about using the right software and tools to produce the work quickly. Job B might specify tools, but they will be way more hung up on the level of proficiency you show with each of your required skills. Assessing for process, approach, methodology, and the critical thinking going into those will be at the core of determining if this candidate is a fit. Employers will want to check that you've studied cognitive psychology, human behavior, and/or behavioral economics, perhaps anthropology. Accessibility training is a must, not a nice to have. If you're a researcher, they will want to assess how you plan, recruit, execute, and analyze research. Why do you choose certain methodologies over others? If you're more on the architecture and design side, they will want to see portfolio work that shows you understand information architecture, good visual hierarchy, heuristics, trust signals, interaction design best practices, etc. How did you use research insights to inform interaction designs? 4. Education for Job A and Job B are different. If Job A mostly requires X years of Figma and a visual design portfolio, then every boot camp is over-teaching you. You don't need 12 weeks of anything to push out Figma things you think are nice. You don't need months of a boot camp or a long online course to tell you how to design what other teammates want to see. Learn Figma, be good at visual design, formal education is optional, and get it done. Boot camps could instead teach you how to be a good cog in the fake agile wheel, or maybe someone can make a video series on that and you don't need a boot camp. Job B will require actual education and practice. It might be university education. It might be boot camp education. It might be years of education and not weeks. It will focus on core principles, critical thinking, and problem finding before problem solving. It will require apprenticeships so that you are trained on the job by leaders and experts with many years of experience. You will have to level up a bit before you are left to do this work without oversight and without tough love work reviews. In that case, every current boot camp, and sadly other programs, many of them, and university degrees fall way short. They're not getting you ready for job B, not even close. This is where the correction starts happening. We now have to correct for all of the people who took boot camps, self-studied, and got certified under a previous educational system that was mostly designed to create job A workers. Hey, just get upskilled really fast and fill seats. Companies need people who say they do UX. You'll get a job fast. The industry will have to correct for all of these people who were sold the promise of a fast path to big salaries and a good job. When we have job A and job B more clearly defined, and we have standards for what you need to learn to do each, educational systems will have to change. Programs will have to specifically make you ready for job A or job B. Job A's core education might be Learn Figma Fast or Mini Art School Boot Camp. Job B's core education might be years of a more intense program with a 1-year paid apprenticeship at the end. The correction also has to happen in workplaces. Companies will need to figure out who they really have, job A workers or job B workers, and which ones do they really want. By the way, while I'm talking, ask your questions, make your comments in the chat, and tell me if you're job A or job B. Hi, Madalena. So again, job A workers or job B workers, what's at our companies now, and which ones did we really want? Which ones match the processes and priorities at this company? Are we customer-centric, or are we speed over quality? We might have to correct for who we hired and how we utilized them. People faking it, whether or not they eventually make it, wouldn't be hired for job B. Faking probably wouldn't go over well for job A either. Change agents accidentally applying for job A would be rejected, unlike now, where we hire change agents but then try to make them into job A types. Job descriptions will have to change. How we assess candidates will have to change. We'll essentially have a whole new category of labor. Well, it's an old category coming back from being hijacked, compromised, and diluted. When job descriptions change, there will be a correction for all of the people that the previous education system claimed were making job ready. Employers already corrected for them by making a junior or entry-level job require at least 1 year of real work experience. They shut the door on those people, but it didn't stop the flood of them into the marketplace because boot camps still hadn't changed their sales pitch. It didn't stop all of the people not ready for job A trying to get a job B job. This is why there will be a series of changes and corrections when job A and job B are separated, clearly defined, and have shifted. 5. What we call A and B will then completely diverge. They can't both be UX design or product design. What are the right terms? I'm still working on that. What I do know is that we have to find terms that are hard to hijack, compromise, or redefine later. For example, UX UI meant job B until people made it also mean job A. Product designer was job B until people also made it mean job A. Now we see people with these titles and we genuinely have no idea if they do job A or job B. So here's where I am as of mid-July 2021. We often think this is just a problem for UX designers and product designers, but it's a problem for researchers too. Some people calling themselves researchers just want to run surveys, ask stakeholders what we know about customers, or hold a focus group. That won't match Job B. Adding words like knowledge-driven or task-based might not help, since Job A might imagine they're doing that too. I can see those being hijacked. I previously suggested that Job A keeps UX and Job B uses CX. But that's imperfect. Job A could hijack CX. Same for XD and experience design. Experience design isn't different enough from user experience design to make anybody understand that someone thinks this is something different. I'd like to give Job B titles something related to business intelligence or risk mitigation, since that's at the core of what we're doing. But there are already jobs with those words. Same for consumer intelligence and customer intelligence, so we don't want to hijack them. I'm recommending the word designer come out of Job B titles for everybody except visual designers. People hear designer and they assume pretty and fonts and brand and colors, and please make it pretty. So many who want Job B don't focus on making things pretty, so it's not the right term. Architect might be a hard term to hijack, since a production designer might not have a great answer for how they are architecting something, but I guess they could try to hijack that. Words related to strategy, strategic, strategist, and words related to analysis, analytical, analyst, are hard to hijack, since you can assess a candidate for, are they doing anything strategic or analytical? Job A's perception of strategy and analysis won't look anything like Job B's definitions of those words. The problem with calling titles strategist or analyst is that you imagine that they are strategizing or analyzing, but not necessarily researching or architecting. Job A titles. To be clearer and more honest, Job A should have titles like marketing researcher for people who mostly want to run surveys, NPS, or focus groups. They would sit under the marketing department and have a marketing manager. Product or production designer for people who are doing production design. Keep UX and CX off these titles. Who manages them is more complex. If you have a department with Job B people, then they are teammates or possibly assistants to the Job B people. They would be managed within that department. If the organization has basically done away with Job B, then Job A people can sit under the product department and have a manager from the product department as their manager. That would be clear. It would be best to remove UX or UX UI from these titles, since the user is so rarely involved and so frequently guessed about. It's not UX without U. It's typically production design without U for users. However, I believe that these jobs will continue to use UX, since that sounds like prestige and higher pay. Production designer doesn't have that prestige sound. Therefore, I believe that these jobs should just push towards product designer, so that we can keep the word design while making sure they don't say UX. And most of us will know that product designer is short for production designer. For Job B, how about strategic CX researcher, strategic CX architect, strategic CX visual designer? Technically, if we remove CX, UX, and UI from Job A titles, Job B could keep these terms, but that's hard because of how many years UX designer has meant production design. We're unlikely to reteach companies and coworkers that now UX designer is not a production designer or order taker. We have trouble explaining that now and getting companies to care about research, good interaction design, testing, and customer outcomes. We also have many agile coaches, scrum masters, and engineers who are sure they can do the UX. I suggest we abandon our most misunderstood and hijacked titles and find something better. I haven't decided on the best titles yet. I only know that jobs are really diverging. There are definitely job A and job B. You can't always tell them from the job description yet, but you can certainly tell them once you've been working there a month. This shines a light on evangelism and how we try to fix the problems at our jobs. In my May 2021 article, UX and Evangelism, Undoing What's Undoing UX, I talked about how many people have brought in crap methodologies and evangelism to try to fix processes and jobs. With a fresh perspective, we can see that most of the problems at our job probably fall into two categories, stated from the perspective of the workplace, not from my perspective. 1. We don't understand what UX really is or does. We're kind of a job A organization or team. We allow non-CX, non-UX domains to control UX. Product, engineering, marketing, and business analysts define what UX is, who can do it, how much time we spend on it, etc. We don't really need UX people since all of these roles can do the UX, but we hire them. It looks good to say we have a UX team, and it gives us someone to do grunt work like wireframes and paper prototypes. 2. Job B people work in our Job A jobs. Those Job B people were either desperate, we sold them a false bill of job description goods, or they read our crappy description of a Job A job and, like the change agents they are, they figured they could change our company. Even though the job descriptions gave them no power or authority to create organizational change, it's in their blood, and they hoped they could do it. So what's next? What do we do now? Other than coming up with better names for Job B, I've got 4.5 hours of ad-free content on my YouTube channel on how we get out of this mess. You can find that as a long 2-part series. You could listen at fast speeds. Episode 115, Breaking the Addiction, that should say addiction, to Asperology workshops. This is about how design thinking, design sprints, lean UX, which is neither lean nor UX, democratization, decentralization, and trying to train, upskill, retrofit non-UX roles into doing UX work hurts our profession, jobs, and customer outcomes. Episode 116, Customer-centric Agile, Making CX and UX lean and agile. This is about the basics of Agile and Lean and how we can use those principles to improve our work. I cover how certain flavors of Agile and Scrum use pretzel logic to explain why they get to control us and how our number one priority needs to be getting out from under engineering's control. I explain how we need to use dual or tri-track Agile and how to staff, build our CX and UX teams to be more agile and lean. Hint, it's not one unicorn trying to do all the things in series. And I cover how to speak the business's language so that you're more likely to be taken seriously, seen as creating value, and eventually get that seat at the table. While these are on YouTube, the video is secondary. These work pretty well audio only. You can find the Delta CX podcast in audio only form and these episodes through Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, and Audible. Coming up with better names for our roles won't really matter if we don't get out from under engineering's control, get ourselves on our own track, as every other domain is, and utilize principles of Agile and Lean, but maybe not the ones you imagine, to improve our work and efficiency. Need help with any of this? Please contact me and let me know what I can do for your company. I've been coming into companies and doing various lengths of this, including longer and shorter, of that 4.5-hour podcast as private training, including Q&A, and I often do it for free. I can also help you strategize a roadmap for creating this change on your teams or at your company. And quick note for our listeners, August 4th is going to be a special brainstorming session live in Miro to take a look at what we think our titles and job category could be called. So we are going to, see, is this the right button? Yeah, it's me. We're going to take a look at that on August 4th. So I hope everybody will mark their calendars to join us live in a Miro board. You won't need a Miro account. I'll be just putting up a link and we'll brainstorm what we think our titles should be called. And I don't know if we'll decide anything or not, but I think we should just go for it and see what words we come up with that we think can't be hijacked, or any terms we think that can help differentiate job A and job B. And if anybody has any thoughts or questions, put them in the chat room. Let's see what Aitan's been saying. Hello, I think I was on job B side when I was in academia, but as I started working outside of academia, I slowly switched to job A. I now call job A quick and dirty UX. I learned it from one of my professors. They compared traditional ethnography to quick and dirty ethnography companies do nowadays. Yeah, and of course, I don't think job A is the problem. I think the workplace is the problem for what it's done to job A and how it doesn't always put the right people in the right jobs. I think this really comes down to better job descriptions and better assessing of candidates. If you have a job B personality, you shouldn't put them into job A. You can have a job A job at your company. You can have someone whose job is to just make fast wireframes for something experimental you're trying to do, but you don't want a change agent personality in that job. And if you're trying to have a job B job, which is more of that change agent personality, you don't want the job A person in there. You don't want the person who says, well, just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to make. Just tell me, just tell me what you want, and so I can make it. But we all know people like that. They're great at what they do. They're highly talented, and we need them. But these are just two very different worlds. Hi, Ikening. Ikening says, insightfully breathtaking. You're just poetic. Thank you, Ikening. So that's my concern. I still see this shift coming, and I think there's going to have to be a great correction. So I'm hoping that hiring managers who watch this will take a really close look at their job descriptions and their workers and start to make that correction. Where did we take the job B personality and try to push them into a job A job? Hey, 10 of you in the YouTube channel, how many of you do you see yourself as A or B? And tell me about the jobs you've been in. Did the job let you be a person or a B person? So it's a real mismatch. And even in my book, I talked about how we have to assess candidates for this, except I called them order takers and interface scientists. So we have to make sure that we're assessing for these personalities. We shouldn't take someone like Madalena and tell her, hey, can you use Figma? Just make us some wireframes. I don't think she's going to be happy there. I don't think you're going to utilize her to her fullest. And of course, that would be the lean sin of underutilized talent. If you watched episode, 116, then you learned a little bit about lean, and you learned about the different types of lean waste we're supposed to cut at our workplace. And one of those types of lean waste is underutilized talent. If you hire a highly talented job B person and you give them job A work, that's just underutilizing talent. If you have a job A job, please put a job A person in the job A job. Which is why I also disagree with the mostly unlikable Jared Spool, because he came out with that article saying that we need to hire more juniors. So of course everybody pressed like on it because they took off there's something about Spool. Everyone takes off their critical thinking hats. He had this article from, I think it was early last year, and he said we should hire more juniors. Well, of course, all the juniors without jobs pressed like. But when I read the article, he said we should hire juniors to be production designers to take grunt work off of senior UX people's plates. And I disagreed with that. So I've got a whole article on that you can find. But basically I thought, that's not the job some of you want to do. That's job A and job B. Some of you don't want to do job A, and job A isn't necessarily the gateway drug to working in job B. You know, not everybody wants to start out making the coffee and cleaning the toilets. Some of you who are trying to be UX juniors now want to research and do architecture and design and test things. You don't want to be the production designer. You don't want to have the grunt work that a senior thinks is beneath them that they don't have time for. And I don't even know what this work is, because I generally don't have work that I think is beneath me that I wish I could just give to someone else. So I don't even know what that is. I mean, even when I've worked with Ralica on research, and she's been my research assistant, nothing was grunt work that she did. She did 200 hours of tagging and coding and analysis and synthesis and task analysis and work and recruiting, and none of that was grunt work. None of that was job A work, even though she was technically my assistant. So it's, it's a job B world for me, though I recognize the talent and the need for job A people and job A jobs. I'm on a tangent now. People in the chat room, what do you think? Thoughts, memories, concerns, disagreements? Oh, thank you, Parag. Thank you for your subscription. Very much appreciated. Welcome, Low Ego Action Hero. Oh, by the way, Kayleen is a genius, and she made screenshots of Darren's face when he does his zombie possessed Imhotep thing. Those will be emojis. Parag says, I think most of the companies and hiring managers are not mature enough to understand the differences between job A and job B, so I think we need to help them understand with clear bifurcation. Exactly. Totally agree. This is absolutely a splitting path. And we had this earlier. I mean, I've been around long enough to remember working in agencies and working with production designers or people who were called graphic designers or people who were called whatever. And you didn't expect them to solve problems or find problems. You just expected them to do something creative that required talent and skill, but wasn't about problem solving or things like that. It was just about making the thing that we needed made. You see this a lot in visual and graphic designers who work on marketing teams. Hey, we have an ad we need made. The ad's got to say this. Here's what our brand looks like. Here's a few things. Make us the ad. That's still an important job. We need those people. Charlene says maybe all jobs should move to job A. Well, not all of them. We still need some job A people. Ikening says, how do you go about bringing change to such an organization that has a lot of job B people doing job A work? Ikening, that is the thing I'm still trying to figure out. And I think some of that is in my episodes 115 and 116, where I talk about job B is really about selling business intelligence and risk mitigation to the company. That you can NPS up to your eyeballs, but that's just a general temperature taking of general fake concepts of loyalty. I like to tell the story that I used a project management system for about 10 years, and every time they sent me an NPS, I gave them an 8 or a 9. I was generally happy. I paid for, 10 years? And then one day I found something better, and I was tired of a couple of crappy things they had done. So boom, the worlds collide. I dropped them. In a second. And they tried to win me back, but it was too late. So here you had someone who was giving you 8s and 9s, where marketing people would say, oh, they're loyal. Oh, they're going to recommend us to people. They're loyal. I did recommend them to people. And then I left. So the problem is a lot of people think if we just do NPS, then that's all we need to know. People are happy, right? So I think that we have to work with our organizations to move past some of these marketing metrics that I think are vanity metrics, because NPS isn't actionable on its own. NPS really should be used to remind us of what we don't know. We don't know why. We don't know what's going right or what's going wrong. Just because if I give a company an 8, what am I happy with and what am I unhappy with? What could be better for Debbie? Could this software be a better match to Debbie? Are we in danger of losing Debbie? We don't know. And so I think we have to remind companies who think, check us out, we're doing NPS now, that congratulations, you've got a quantitative metric that looks good in PowerPoint slides, but we are lacking business intelligence. Where is that business intelligence? Are we still guessing about customers? There you go. So I think that's one thing we're going to have to push, Ikening. What do you think? Aitan says, I'm just amazed how companies require degrees in psychology, anthropology, ethnography, and then expect these people to do quick and dirty UX. We're usually taught how to conduct thorough and in-depth research, and it takes time. Totally agree. I'm so amazed at how many UX UI jobs I see that say like master's degree preferred. Go Don Norman, I need a cap. like, bachelor's in HCI, master's preferred, and then it's basically wireframe, no research, no testing, just, we're very agile. Parag says, I've been interviewing proactively, and in the last 5 to 6 months, I made 2 virtual on-site interviews for lead, strategic, architect work, but got rejected because I'm not great at visual design. But I'm happy I got rejected because it was job A, and I would like to stick with B. Oh my God, Parag, you are my new bestest friend. I'm totally feeling you there. Hold on, I'm trying to set off I forgot to open up my window with all my effects in it, so hold on. Yes! That's exactly how I feel. I've been working in this industry since the mid-90s, and I can barely get a job because they keep telling me, your resume looks like you don't really know Figma. Well, can't I learn Figma in like a half a day? But we need someone who knows Figma. Or they say, Deb, where's your visual design portfolio? I'm not an artist. Oh, but we need a visual designer. Well, I can make an endless mountain of magic happen. Don't you care about that? Are you going to check if I know I read your job description. Are you going to check if I know information architecture? Are you going to check my approach to research, planning, and execution? Or are you just going to check if I make pretty things? Because if you just check if I make pretty things, it's job A. And by the way, this is also a message to all y'all, my low ego action heroes, that as we are looking at job descriptions and going through interviews, as Parag just said, we have to make sure we are trying to figure out, is this a job A or a job B job? Do they want what you do? Whichever one that is. If you're a job A person, do they want job A? If you're a job B person, do they want what you do? And sometimes I have to say that to people when they send me these job descriptions and whatever. I say, you don't want what I do. I just know you don't. You don't want what I do. And I also know they don't want what I do. Remember my LinkedIn post where I said I wanted to find a job where I could be a change agent? The company I'm working at is the only company that reached out to me. 18,000 people, more than 18,000 people saw that post. Hundreds of people pressed like, lots of comments. One company wanted a change agent. So I'm very proud to be working there. Let's see. Checking the chat room. Ekening says, I agree with you. A lot of the orgs doing UX just aren't structured in a way that supports UX work. So they find themselves using NPS, gateway drug, to substitute proper research. Charlene says, I guess a lot of companies think UX is make pretty pictures very quickly. That needs changing. Exactly. That's why I put out episodes 115 and 116. I think they're just going to be my flagships for this year. 115 and 116 are going to be the things to watch, even though it was 4.5 hours of content. Sorry, not sorry. I think these are going to be the things that make the change in what we do, that we have to show the value behind what we do, and not the way that evangelism tell us. It's not, don't you understand my job, and UX isn't UI, and I'm making empathy, hashtag empathy, and I create delight. We have to get away from these fuzzy words. We sound weird. We sound like we're going to show up with crystals and runes and a Ouija board. We have to show, and even the ROI and the metrics are a little bit of a fantasy, because every job I've ever worked at, if there was ROI, they thanked product for a wonderful roadmap. They thanked engineers for wonderful coding. They thanked marketing for making people know about it. And UX got no love. So the ROI and whatever metrics we thought were going to be out there were not tied to us. So all of these people out there, including the totally evil spool, trying to tell you, oh, you just need more metrics and to prove ROI. I want people to say exactly how that's done, because I see so many articles saying, oh, you need metrics. You need to use metrics. You need to use metrics and prove ROI. That's fine. Give it a try. But every job I've ever been at saw those metrics, saw that ROI, and thanked product, engineering, and marketing. So give me actionable information on how we change that. People who write articles about metrics, Madalena says, can you use your instinct to do some mock-ups for this homepage? Unleash the cringe. Yeah, some of you know I turned down some potential work for Delta CX earlier this year because I had companies saying like, hey, we have these terrible information architecture problems and we want your company to come in and fix them. And I gave them this proposal for like, first we're going to research, then we're going to do your IA. And they were like, oh, no, just do the IA. And I was like, well, how do you think I know what to do with the IA? We do the research first. No, we don't need research. We just need the IA. No, but I do research to know what to do with the IA. Well, what, aren't you an expert? Don't you just know what to do with the IA? Don't you read articles about best practices? I said, no, I write articles about best practices. I said, that's not how this is done. Everybody's IA is different. I've got to research what you're doing and where you're going with it and who your users are and how they use this site to know the right IA. Well, we just want the IA. Maybe we'll let you research it later. No, you're not going to let me research it later. Once you have your IA, you're going to pay me and walk away. And so I've been saying no to those jobs, and I think I had three or four potential clients like that in just in the first half of this year. And they just all thought UX people are so good that we can just come in and guess the IA. Aitan says, he suggested me to put up Post-it notes. I don't know who you're talking about. Oh, okay. It's a two-parter. I remembered when I was interning as a UXR, my supervisor told me our manager was not happy with me because he couldn't see results of my job immediately. He suggested to put up Post-it notes in our wall in the office so it looks like I'm doing something. LOL. I couldn't explain it to them that I was doing research and it took time. Yeah. Exactly. It's really hard. I mean, the Darren will always tell you when people say, what's the most important UX tool that we should be using? Darren always says, your mind. And he's right. Now, if we had the Darren emoji, we could set them off. So Darren emoji's coming. And Solomon says, yippee-ki-yay, IA. So true. Madalena says, quickly redesign the website. Do you say quickly and add another floor to this house? Quickly add another floor to the house. Yeah, it's very true. I always remind people the same type of thing. You don't bypass structural engineering just because you need something built soon. We still need that structural engineering. We still have to check what the laws are and permits and whatever. It's very strange. It's very strange. And it mostly seems to happen to us. I don't hear about product people having to evangelize or engineers having to evangelize or hold meetings, or I don't know of any YouTube channels of QA people saying like, why won't they take us seriously? We should be testing code. Dinner shake, hashtag not sponsored. Yeah, so thanks to everybody for turning this into a fun conversation. Thanks to the people live in the chat room. We can hang around a few more minutes if there's something you want to bring up or discuss. I do not have the magic bullet to solve this, but I feel like every week I have a few more pieces. I write a few more slides. I bring something to the channel that's an idea I'm playing with. I bounce it off all of you. So thanks to all of you for being here. Every week I want to rewrite my book because I feel like I have so many new, more helpful ideas than my book. So my book is not a disaster. I still love it, but it's like, ooh, I've really evolved and matured some of these ideas since I wrote the book 2 years ago. So someday, second edition. Excuse me. But I think that there's a lot that has to be fixed. And I think that we're not going to get the term UX back. I tend to think the term UX is a little bit lost to people who think UX is just the new term for web designers. Tatiana says, thanks for bringing me back to my UX designer identity board. Yeah, you know, that's not a bad idea. Who am I? You know, everyone get out your Les Miserables moment and say, who am I? What do I want to be? You know, I saw some people posting on LinkedIn in response to my posts, and one person was like, well, I want to do job A and job B. And my thought was, okay, I support you, but I can't even imagine that. I can't even imagine being happy in a job where sometimes I get to do change agent work and research before I find solutions, and Sometimes I just guess at solutions. I haven't been happy with that. So, if you're happy with that, that's fine. If that works for you, okay. But I think that we have to make sure that job A and job B are separate. I don't think we can say sometimes you're really going to research and really know the customers and their tasks and problems, and you're going to base your solutions on real business intelligence and customer intelligence. And sometimes we're just going to give you a day to guess at some wireframes. Boing. Iton says UX is going through an existential crisis. Yeah, and I've been around long enough to remember it before that. I mean, we always had a problem with terms because the terms kept getting hijacked. But I remember UX 10 years ago when it was a lot clearer what it was. And yes, many jobs were still hoping I was also a visual designer, but there were also many jobs that kind of didn't care if I wasn't. Like, hey, we're kind of hoping you're a visual designer. Yeah, I'm not a visual designer. All right, we'll give that to someone else. And I could still get those jobs. I could still be a senior UX architect somewhere and just really focus on interaction design and information architecture and working with researchers. And those jobs were still out there and you still could get them. And then it changed, I think, especially because of the boot camps, and just shifted. Charlene says, design is not art. If you want to sell your designs, you need to know your users and what they want. Well, I think so. The example I always trot out for shifting in terms is, this was my license plate in 2011. Of course, now it's like one of the most hated, disrespected terms out there. But when I got this license plate in 2011, it meant something. It meant I was a UX specialist who architected and designed user interfaces. Very few people thought I was a visual designer. My resume was packed with Axure and information architecture and other things, and that was the right term for what I did. And then it got hijacked to mean job B. I remember getting lots of people beeping and waving on the highway. Triniese says, I was exploring this career. I would be a job B person, but this all seems very confusing for a newbie like myself. It is, because the problem is you can read a job description and you have no idea if sometimes you have no idea if it's going to be job A or job B. Sometimes you don't know until you interview and you ask them something like, what's this company's or team's approach to research? And sometimes they'll be like, oh, we don't need that. We're just going to test it later. And you go, okay, job A. Or you say, what's this company's approach to user-centered design? Or what's my team's UX process? You're going to know pretty quickly if it's job A or job B, because job A is going to say, oh yeah, we're really agile and lean, and we like to get wireframes out fast to engineering so that we can release our products and find out later if people like them. That's going to be job A. Job B is going to sound more like, we invest in research and researchers so that we can be informed and driven by our research insights. And then you ask, and do designers and engineers wait for those research insights before they work on solutions? And if the answer is, nah, we just kind of jump right in and the research will help us know something later, job A. And if they say, we do wait for research insights before we build solutions. Yeah, research before development. Then you go, okay, maybe job B. Parag says, I think the problem started after full stack designer became a thing. Charlene put up a unicorn. I do think that I blame some of it. Actually, in my book, I talk about how we got here, for those who've read the Delta CX book. And partially it's the boot camps, and partially it's the Lean Startup book and the Lean UX book, and lots of books that came out in early mid 2010s that made it sound like, hey, UX is just something everybody can do. Lean Startup said you don't need UX people, just get together and put out MVPs. The Design Sprint book said you don't really need this, just get together and come up with some product ideas and get them out there. So I think it was kind of an outgrowth of a lot of that. And then when people started seeing that that wasn't working, then they thought, oh, maybe we should get these UX people. But then they really didn't know what to do with us. They thought we were just there to clean up those ideas or make them prettier. They still didn't get it. But I think, unfortunately, a lot of people read those books. And so I do tend to, if I look at root causes, I think a lot of it is those books and stuff that Jared Spool says, like all of the years he spent pushing everybody's a designer, and the pinnacle of UX maturity is when everybody at your company is fluent in UX. So that's where I see it. But the very first slide in episode 115, or I guess technically it's the third slide, will explain to you kind of how we got here. Luciano says, I think there is a correlation between UI and UX, but UX is also independent of UI. Well, sure. You can't have a user experience without the visual design. But I'm not talking about that today. Ralit says here, which is hilarious because she's about 50 meters that way in our guest room. I also think the desire to have one person do all of this is what drives the trend. That means it's cheaper, so less upfront investment. Yes, and we talk about, in episode 116, I talk about how if you look at how long it will take one person, a unicorn, a jack of all trades, a generalist, or whatever you want to call it, a hybrid, to do the research analysis, the information architecture, the interaction design, the testing. It's a really long process if done well. It's weeks of work. I have an example in episode 116 where I show a project we did, and that if one person had done everything, it would have taken one person 19 weeks. There's no way anyone's going to find that agile. There's no way anybody's going to find that lean. But yet they keep telling us we need one person to do everything. But then they keep telling us, well, make it shorter. Make it short. We don't have 19 weeks to do this. What can you do in 1 week? What can you do in 2 weeks? Now we've completely skimped on UX and cheapened it and minimized it. And that's the problem. That's why in episode 116, I say, put 5 or 6 UX people on a project and it will be super fast, super agile. It'll take the same 2 to 4 sprints that engineering wants. If engineering wants it, we should be able to get it. If engineering gets 4 2-week sprints, why can't we? They're not special. They're not better than we are. We're all in this together. It's also why this year I've really been pushing to engineering and agile and Scrum and all those people that we must improve agility by using customers' definitions of quality and done. Right now, many engineers' definitions of quality is code tested well for QA, no bugs, few bugs, looks good enough. The definition of done is, well, we did what we planned to do. Let's get it out there. It's a very self-reflective definition of quality. It doesn't say, hey, is this going to be right for customers? Is this going to be a 5-star out of 5, 5 dogs out of 5 quality for our customers? I haven't seen anything in Agile that asks that question. Maybe it exists, but at least in where I'm seeing Agile implemented, I'm not seeing quality defined. Would our customer give this 5 dogs out of 5? Quality is usually, does the code seem to be good? Did we write it well? Does it run well? Is it buggy? And we have to start working on bringing that customer centricity into our businesses and our workplaces so that we can say, well, wait a minute. Bug-free code is important. Finishing what we meant to do is important. But what about the customer centricity? Does this feature or what we've built really have benefit or value to the customer? And how do we know that? Because I talk about in episode 116 about sprint goals. Why are sprint goals that we believe what we're doing will have benefit to customers? Why do we know it has benefit to customers? This is a lot of time and money to spend on guessing. So this is why I've got to just keep referencing episodes 115 and 116. These are the watch party to have. And it's episodes that you can show to everybody at your company. It's not just I'm talking to you UXers, but it's for everybody. Ralitsa says, yes, unfortunately, if you want to do it well, it is a really lengthy process for one person to do a lot of stuff. Exactly. And our companies never say, well, we only hired one of you and it would only be fair if we let you do the whole thing. So here's your 19 weeks. They say, oh my God, that's waterfall. UX is an evil pile of evil people who are just so waterfall. They're not agile. Well, wait a minute. You put 6 engineers on something for 8 weeks and you put me on a thing, but I don't get 2 days. Oh, forget it. So, we've just been gaslit into this whole UX isn't agile. Give me 6 people and 8 weeks and you won't believe what I can do. So thanks for hanging out. Madeline is right. She says, and then they'll advertise they want a hungry and motivated candidate. We all know what that means. You're right. When you see hungry and fast-paced and things like that, just a reminder, everybody, don't forget that my HR training is live and it's completely free. You can find it at deltacx.link/HR-training. And I have a whole chapter, even if you just go, you can take it out of order. If you go to my chapter on rules for creating jobs, kind of sums up my whole training. It's a problem to have these types of jobs because these are what I call moving target jobs. If it were my job to do the research planning, the recruiting, the research, the analysis strategy, the information architecture, the interaction design, the testing and prototyping, the visual design, whatever, that job is going to be what I call a moving target. Hey, I'm working on my research. Well, where are your wireframes? Well, I'm still working on my research. Well, get on those wireframes. Okay, angry manager, so I'm working on my wireframes. Well, where's your content strategy? Well, but I'm working on the wireframes. Yeah, well, we need that content strategy. All right, I'll work on the content strategy. Well, where's your wireframes? And where's that visual design? We need the final visual design screens. Well, now I'm working on the content strategy. This is what I call a moving target job, and I imagine this is what it's like for many so-called unicorns and jacks of all trades who end up at these jobs where they're expected to do the end-to-end everything, but not in enough time to do the end-to-end everything. Ralitsa says, by the way, on the subject of sprint goals, a lot of teams bastardize those to mean, let's deliver this epic or story or whatever, where the goal should be, let's accomplish this goal. Yeah, I've seen some pretty funky user stories. I know you're right, and this is your area of expertise. Anyway, we are running out of time. So just a reminder, great follow-up to today's show will be August 4th, I believe is what I scheduled. August 4th, we're going to brainstorm some new titles for what we think Job B should be, or Job A. I'm really curious what everybody thinks. Madalena says, I heard somewhere if you ask a company what matters to them and the word user or customers aren't mentioned, think twice. I would just say run. Yeah, I see that a lot. I still have to get into, let me see if I can get it into the system here quickly. I keep threatening that I've got to find that graphic that I found, image, browse. Give me a second. Let's see if I can find it. Screenshots. Here it is. Let's put up this guy for a moment. Did everybody see this? It's in episode 116. This was around LinkedIn, going around like mostly from like product managers or agile people, like, hey, product managers, you're not at the intersection of UX and tech and business. You're at that intersection, but in a Venn diagram of product and customers. And what I ended up saying was like, well, wait a minute, why is that Venn diagram of product and customers not overlapping more? We're getting it wrong. That means we have a whole bunch of product that isn't a match to our customers, and we have a whole bunch of customers who don't have product that they need. This is money left on the table and giant lean waste. And I've been telling people, go do a little workshop, do a half hour, call a half-hour meeting at your company, open up a Miro board, give everybody 2 circles, product, customers. Tell them to move those circles and make a Venn diagram for how much they think our product and our customers overlap. How much are we building the right product for our customers? How much are our customers served by the product we have so far? Then we can have a nice little half-hour workshop conversation about why aren't these overlapping more? There can't be any good reason for that. Why aren't these overlapping more? The customers are all we have. If our company stops having customers or has fewer customers or loses customers, we don't have revenue, we don't have jobs. Like, it's all about the customer. Sorry, stakeholders and hippos, it's all about the customer. What else can I tell you? So I guess I'll play us out of here. But thanks to everybody for hanging out and chiming in. Wrong button. And I will see everybody for Friday reaction stream. You guys have been sending in a lot of stuff for the Friday reaction stream. I'm very excited about it. So please do drop by for more adventures in reacting to things. You can also send stuff in at deltacx.link/reaction. And I will take a look at whatever you got. But we already have more than enough for this week for the short stream. So I'm going to play us out of here. I hope everybody will be well and safe and wear lots of masks. And I guess I'll see everybody Friday for the reaction stream. Thanks and catch you later. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are